So, how's everybody been in the interim?
Sick. Dope AF.
Stressed.
That's fair. I can't wait to make it worse.
Sophie had a great session.
It was god awful. No, I love my representative. I think he's great. I loved a lot of people, but it was kind of god awful. So,
Do the viewers get any context whatsoever?
no, they can learn about that next time.
Okay, next time we will talk about the session. This time we will talk.
This time, we will talk about the second worst constitutional crisis in our history.
Cool.
The first being the Civil War. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi bar. There's no intro on here, and I forgot the intro, so we should probably
There is no intro on this one.
Can we do names and stuff?
No.
But what
It's
if
a
I
cold open.
Introduce yourself.
Okay. Welcome to the internet, live from not the state capitol building. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your co-host, Constitution enjoyer, Kyle Holland. I forgot I got to do my first name. And these are my host and co-host.
I am normal person distressed by the fact that the government is run by idiots at the moment. Dunstan.
And I'm Alex Fielder, still up in Logan.
Wow.
We'll be coming back soon.
RETVR.
Trademark. So, today we have a very fun episode for you, and by fun I mean horrible.
We could do the news sound and then just never close it out if we really wanted to, if that gives you an idea.
I think that would be... let's actually do that. Play the noise now.
Oh, what is it? Do. Now you get to do this
Thank
in your
you.
news voice if we're doing the rant now.
That I'm not doing the whole thing in my news voice.
Aww.
I wrote myself like a what? Like, what do you think? This is a 3-minute monologue?
Can you start the monologue of the news voice? I like the news voice.
So, I would like to start by encouraging you to keep listening, even if we don't have the same political viewpoint, because what is at stake at the moment is actually much greater than any disagreement between liberals and conservatives or anyone, really.
I miss normal time where we can cover our hippie liberal woke transit projects with woke steel in them and
Those
such
Yeah.
were
and
the
so forth.
days.
We're gonna get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But okay, what does my news voice sound like, Kyle?
Do I look like I know how to do it?
Here, I'll do it. The United States is facing what may be the worst constitutional crisis in its history. The American electorate, deceived by lies, foreign propaganda, and a press fully captured by the interests of wealthy crypto-fascists,
That
has
is a
vaulted
funny
Donald
term.
John Trump. Huh?
That is a funny term.
Well, crypto-fascist means that they're concealing the fact that they are fascist, but they are
Oh,
fascist.
I thought you meant
doesn't
cryptocurrency,
have
which would be
anything to-
equally true.
Yeah, no, I did not. But they have, the American electorate, that is, because we're stupid, has vaunted Donald John Trump to a second term as chief executive. A man who said that he would be dictator on day one and promised to use the mechanisms of government to exact vengeance on his political enemies is, once again, the President of the United States of America.
And for once, he said something true.
He followed through, a politician following through on his promises. Since ascending to that lofty position, his actions have been almost incomprehensibly despicable. He has attempted to overthrow the constitutional order by wresting the power of the purse from Congress and is actively defying lawful orders from federal courts. He has placed a body of incompetent, unelected, and utterly unaccountable tech children over the entire U.S. government, which has begun illegal mass firings of federal workers in the name of efficiency.
Illegal and incredibly
Under
poorly
this-
executed and confusing as well.
Yeah.
Like,
You're getting the hallmark of this whole administration.
bros do
so
not
far.
know how to use the bureaucracy.
Under the same pretext, the Trump administration is destroying the U.S. research system and attempting to illegally dismantle agencies and departments created by acts of Congress.
What was
There has been a mass purge of...
What was the act? I forgot what it was. I think Reagan era act or Nixon era or something that Congress passed to prevent the executive branch from not doing stuff it's supposed to do and spending and such.
I don't remember, but it does in fact exist. And so, saying that you're going to freeze funding or fire half the Department of Education without Congress budgeting for that is actually illegal. Fun fact.
Yeah.
So, and they're also racist, of course.
The Impoundment Control Act is that one.
Thank you. That is actually a great thing to add. They're being racist as well, which is not surprising.
This is not surprising.
It is disappointing. Because I thought that they might be the sort of anyway, race-blind fascism, but they are not.
No, we're not there yet.
But there has been a mass purge of non-white individuals from leadership positions in favor of less qualified white people because of, quote, DEI. In fact, federal websites are now being scrubbed of references to minorities, with many pages being literally given a DEI label. You guys know about I think it was... Oh, I gotta look this up now. Yeah, I was right. It was the Navajo. So in World War II, the U.S. Code was based on... Or a lot of U.S. code-breaking efforts were done by people called wind talkers who were members of the Navajo Nation. Because... their language was so unique that
they used it
the
as
Japanese
a code.
Could not decode it. Right. So the page on the Department of Defense's website has been changed to DEI wind talkers because they're not white.
What?
Oh my God.
And they're doing this to all sorts of regiments and all over the government. It's not great.
This is
in a mere 2 months. Oh, go on.
This is slightly funny because the point of DEI is not only diversity, equity, and inclusion, proactively including non-white cis old men with gray hair. It's also meant to combat hiring of unqualified white people for kicks and giggles and nepotism and corruption.
Yeah,
and
you
yet
should
this
see
is what's
who
happening.
You should see who hired the Trump or who the Trump administration hired as their head of the Joint Chiefs. The first 3-star general to be a Joint Chief in a very long time.
It's been 4-star generals till now.
Yeah, because the only loyalist they could find was a 3-star general who was already retired. So
damn. Guess they're not giving out those 4 stars for free.
No, as it turns out, they're not. In a mere 2 months, this administration has destroyed our international standing. It has dismantled USAID, ending programs that save literally millions of lives.
Not just millions, tens of billions. John Green did a good piece on how the HIV program, part of that, has saved about 26 million lives over the past 20-odd years. Just the HIV part.
There's a timer starting right now for how many people this administration's actions are going to kill by ending USAID and other programs. It's something like $1.37 million a year. So by the end of the 4-year Trump administration, they will have killed as many people as the Holocaust.
Great. And COVID.
So, not good guy vibes for the United States at the moment.
No.
We've also withdrawn from crucial international partnerships on health and other topics.
Dumb idea.
In a time when there is another, sort of epidemic brewing. You might have heard of the bird flu. It makes your eggs expensive.
I have heard of the bird flu and how it's jumping to humans at a concerning rate.
Yeah, but we're going to dismantle the CDC. Our autocrat-in-chief has repeatedly threatened the use of force against our close allies, including Canada and Greenland, and has started trade wars with those countries with whom we are most closely aligned. America is cozying up to authoritarians and dictators while making enemies of the free nations we have called friends.
I'm slightly amused that
Donald Trump,
the administration manages to sell this under the label of domestic industry. No, that's not it.
And we're fighting the globalists who are screwing America.
By importing maple syrup, yeah, globalists. Globes.
Because America has not been the main benefactor of the global liberalization of trade, but whatever. Donald Trump, his Nazi of a vice president, and the plutocrats that back them have even more concerning ambitions. In the last several weeks, the Trump administration has begun to weaponize immigration and customs enforcement, and the immigration system, illegally detaining and deporting both permanent residents, U.S. citizens, and those without status. He is now claiming unlimited powers to deport whoever he likes without judicial review under Article 2. Many of those detained and deported have been arrested for using their First Amendment rights to criticize the current government. I need not explain how the combination of those two things is a great danger to all of us.
Like, we've got the Columbia University student who the government is trying to deport for a thing that is not even true and is whisking around the country.
Trying to deport the government for being a terrorist because he was a pro-Palestinian protester at Columbia University.
Which is completely illegal and unconstitutional. And then to avoid the actual judicial process that would show this is unconstitutional, they're whisking around between different detention centers to try and confuse who has jurisdiction over the process. So someone under Trump is smart enough to abuse the system to hurt people.
And citizens, foreign nationals, people of all sorts are being detained without a trial, often given no access to a lawyer. This includes not just sort of Latino or not white people, but Germans, Canadians, etc., which is drying up tourism to the country because everyone feels like it's dangerous to come here, which is true. If you don't live in the United States of America, do not come here.
If you do live in the United States of America, there's a decent chance you're a target too.
Do not come here.
Yeah.
No, there was a U.S. citizen in Chicago who was detained for 10 hours and had his identity documents stolen by ICE.
What?
So anyway, all of this is tantamount to an assault on our republic. Donald Trump is attempting to consolidate all the power in the system to create a personalist authoritarian regime for the benefit of himself and his cronies. The opposition has failed to mount a meaningful campaign against the criminal actions of the current administration.
Wait, there's a campaign against them?
Huh?
There's any opposition?
No, your Democratic leaders have betrayed you. The House has been doing okay, but the Senate caved in to fund a concurrent resolution that cooperates with Donald Trump's attempt to destroy the federal government.
And what does the Senate think they're going to get out of this?
Well, as far as I can tell, nothing, but they thought it would be worse to shut the government down for some reason.
For some reason, it seems to be already half shut down.
Exactly. So almost as though you should just let it die and see where things fall. See how the pressure mounts when no one can get their Social Security checks and the Republicans are forced to make a deal. Yeah. But we're not going to do that. We're going to wait it out in hopes of gaining power in the future. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and all of their cabinet appointees must resign immediately, as must the leaders of the House and Senate minorities. And to bring the topic to rest in our own field of expertise, Donald Trump has called for the recall of all federal transportation programs and grants created under the Biden administration.
Including everything that's already been awarded.
That's correct. Climate change is woke, public transportation is woke, road diets are woke, bikes are woke, walking is woke, and no doubt dense urban development is woke. This administration is an existential threat to both our democracy and the urbanist project in the United States. There is no room for cooperation or compromise. The only path forward is unconditional resistance to everything and everything. Thoughts?
I see why the rest of this episode is just narrowing in on transit construction and shit. There's too much to cover. We could start 5 more podcasts and record every day. There's so much shit happening.
It's already bad enough when it comes out day by day, but when you lay it out...
when you lay out every illegal and terrible policy and all the things that this administration is doing...
could we follow a single godforsaken court order?
Well, no. Because Donald Trump does not believe that the court should have the power to bind him. Which is why he's mounting a challenge to the Supreme Court, claiming that he has unlimited powers to deport whoever he likes under Article 2, which he does not, but the Supreme Court is probably going to let him do it. So
he's getting a lot of mileage out of stacking the courts last term.
Yeah, almost as though the Democrats should stand and fight once in a while. I don't know. No, this is emblematic of Schumer's tenure as Senate Minority Leader. is avoiding conflict at all cost.
Bruh, it's
So,
the United States
there-
Congress. This is where you do the conflict. The lower levels of government might need to avoid conflict to appease the higher levels, but you're at the top. Fight the fight.
Well, you don't understand. You see, the previous minority leader was all about fighting things, and that was stressful. That's the whole thing. No, but I hear a lot of sort of smart people who I read their, blogs or their Substacks or their op-eds or their opinion pieces wherever, and I'm starting to see a growing call for basically a Democratic Tea Party, which is to sort of take over the party from within, and make it into something that is actually willing to fight, make it into, an actual opposition party instead of what it is currently, which is sort of collaborating to the destruction of the American system of government.
I think they lose one vertebrae per financial quarter.
They do. They really do. It ain't everyone. It isn't everyone. I should be clear. There's a lot of great politicians in the
We,
Democratic
of course,
Party.
have Bernie, who is continuing to say the exact same things he's been saying since, ever. And they
Which are
continue
still
to be
true.
relevant, and they continue to be true. So maybe we should fucking listen to him about one or two of them.
And Representative Ocasio-Cortez, with whose politics I do not generally align, has also been great on this and being like, hey, maybe we should fight all this evil and illegal stuff they're doing instead of just sort of tacitly assenting to it. So,
Yeah.
this is bad. But let's get on to the transportation section of the episode, since that is allegedly why we are here.
Allegedly.
So, I have before us a memorandum for secretarial officers and heads of operating administrations issued by the Secretary of the United States Department of Transportation, which subject is, quote, implementation of executive orders addressing energy, climate change, diversity, and gender,
What?
unquote.
Since when did the DOT do gender? Is that what they
you're
mean
gonna
by
love
high-speed rail?
You're going to love this, Kyle. So, quote, and this is from the first section. This memorandum sets forth the initial steps to be taken by the U.S. Department of Transportation to implement the provisions of several executive orders, including those titled as follows. Blah, blah, blah. No, that's important. But the last one is funny, and it's called, quote, defending women from gender ideological extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government, unquote.
Why the fuck do they have rad femmes in DOT memoranda?
Because they've allied themselves with the conservatives. So, these executive orders that are listed, of which there are 5, quote, direct federal agencies where and as consistent with law to identify and eliminate all orders, directive rules, regulations, notices, guidance documents, funding agreements, programs, and policy statements or portions thereof, which were authorized, adopted, or approved between noon January 20th, 2021 and noon on January 20th, 2025.
That's a somewhat suspicious date range.
Yeah, I wonder whose administration that coincides with exactly. And which reference or relate in any way to, quote, climate change,
Oh, no, that one doesn't have quotes.
Gas.
You got to read the quotes.
Oh, yeah. To climate change, quote, greenhouse gas, unquote, emissions, racial equity, gender identity, quote, diversity, equity, and inclusion, unquote, goals, environmental justice, or the Justice 40 initiative. In other words, every grant issued by the federal government for a transportation project in the last 4 years.
Yeah, the year is 2025. What transportation project is trying to make the climate worse, or at least be ignorant about it, be actively and openly racist, be actively and openly sexist and transphobic?
Well, and even when they are, as in the case of freeway expansions, City Nerd said something I really like. He used a word that I really like, so I added it here.
Yeah.
Where was it? Yeah, he called it equity washing, which I thought was quite a good word. They love to equity wash
The freeway projects.
freeway projects, equity wash any project, make it like look like it's going to be super woke.
So now everything is
And-
eligible for being erased and deleted and unfunded.
That's right. And so
That's a good point, because everything that is eligible for a federal grant will have by definition gone through NEPA, which requires you to address equity issues, because when we didn't address equity issues in the 60s, we blew up a bunch of black people.
we bulldozed, yeah. So
So basically
I
everything.
guess the silver lining here is that freeway projects are also going to be canceled. But I put on here, it said $20 they'll get a fast track to getting refunded.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
they will.
Running the country. Yeah. So this is very concerning, because basically every project we've ever talked about on this show in the United States is a target. All of them. Every single one.
Decades and fucking
BART San
decades.
Jose.
And decades of work goes into planning and funding and politicking and litigating every individual infrastructure project. And Trump waltzes in and just like, nope, fuck everybody.
Well, and we see this time and time again. You guys remember talking about Maryland and how difficult it was for them to restart all these light rail projects after successive governors kept canceling them and bringing them back. Like, this is not a productive environment.
And that's just like a couple of projects in one state and one environment. This is the entire goddamn country.
So, think about your favorite local transit expansion, or bike lane, or bus lane, or road diet, or
frankly, freeway
walking
expansion, because
path.
those are getting targeted too.
It's dead.
And
it is dead. It is
will-
dead for the next 4 years.
And if it gets reincarnated,
At
it will
least.
be smaller and more expensive.
And it will take longer.
This is how this works every time. Like, this is the antithesis of efficiency, if you'll let me use.
Of government efficiency?
Yeah, if you'll let me use. Did he get his money off emeralds or diamonds? I can't remember.
Emeralds.
If you'll let
He's
me
an
use
emerald man.
Blood Emerald Man's own word.
Emerald
This
with
is
slaves, yeah.
great. Yeah, this is the antithesis of any sort of efficiency, not having reliable funding and a reliable process to get and distribute funding. You can't just go turn projects on and off like a light switch. There's no neat little Mormon trick.
It's already evil enough to cancel current contracts and, evil enough to cancel future contracts and funding, but to cancel present ones is just
That have already been awarded. This is
insane.
probably just completely illegal. I'm not sure.
Most of the time it is, but since we don't pay attention to court orders in this administration,
Oh my fuck.
the law does not actually apply. So you see why I said the only path forward is unconditional resistance, because the other side does not respect the process, does not respect the rules, does not in fact respect democratic republic that we have here. So they will do anything, including things that are illegal, to destroy things that they hate. So we have to be sort of equally enterprising to defend things that are good.
And then they will proceed to dodge the legal process and just actively ignore every court order they don't like.
Did you know that they're freezing funding to the courts?
What?
They're freezing funding to the courts so that things can stop, illegal things they do can stop being challenged.
Right, and if the courts don't have money, how are the courts going to challenge the courts not having money?
Uh-huh. You see where the problem is there?
Isn't the executive branch supposed to be the teeth of the courts?
The executive branch is supposed to be the teeth of the legislature.
Oh, okay. The courts are just supposed to go after both of them.
I would like to remind everyone that the U.S. Constitution makes Congress the most powerful branch, not the executive.
That's kind of the point of a democracy.
And I'll end with that. I would also like to... So think of any project you like. It's dead. I'm sorry.
Rip Frontrunner 2X.
I also want to
give that one 4 more
bring
years.
everyone's attention to a phenomenon that we often see in red states. If you're from a blue state, this is going to seem insane to you. So we have seen the power of red state governments to preempt cities when they do things that are too liberal. One thinks of Indianapolis, which is forever banned from building rail transit or BRT ever again because the state legislature decided they were too woke. Or my own city of Salt Lake City, which has been effectively banned from doing road diets for the next year by the state government because, we were being too woke. So,
to be covered in the next episode.
Blue states are no longer safe from this.
Because now the federal government can start fucking people over.
Can start doing things that the federal government is not supposed to do and reaching down to specifically screw over cities' plans that they consider too woke. So if you live in Portland or Seattle or San Francisco or New York City or Boston or wherever, safe blue state city, you are now going to be subject to this kind of like petty fuck you-ness from the federal government. They are going to specifically ban you from they're going to pass laws that specifically ban you from building a bike lane on certain streets.
Right. Like, fucking Doug Ford moment, by the way. But, like, up until this point, the federal government, as far as infrastructure projects, has just been a bunch of, like, benign formulaic grant programs glued together. So you go and you do a bunch of paperwork, you ask really nicely for money, and they evaluate on merit who gets how much money.
I don't know about benign, but...
As far as government actions and programs go, I would call formulaic grants fairly benign.
That's true.
Anyways, but now apparently we're just turning off. We're just illegally blocking funding. We're picking, and I don't even fucking know.
So it is possible that blue states, cities in blue states specifically, will become subject to the same sort of insane, hyper-specific oversight that blue cities and red states get.
We should touch on congestion pricing. Which Trump decided...
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Which the Trump administration is trying to kill. Like, this is already happening, guys.
Yeah.
And also of note, Project 2025, which, quote, wasn't the blueprint for this administration, unquote, according to the people who wrote it and the people running the government, who are the same people, by the way, explicitly called for the preservation of single-family zoning. So,
well, how
I'm
else
sorry
are you going to breed more
fellow...
conservatives?
Yeah, other than creating an atomized freakazoid society.
Humans are a product of their environment.
Suburbia created fascism in America, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sorry to all of my YIMBY friends, but all of the crazy freakazoid NIMBYs in whatever city you live in are now going to have the full force of the federal government behind them whenever you try and upzone a neighborhood.
Or walk through a neighborhood, for that matter.
If you want to build a 3-story apartment building in the San Francisco Sunset, you can bet that the Trump administration will say no.
Because it's woke.
Because it's woke. That's right.
That is, a minority might live there. Or someone who makes less than $1 million a year might live there. I didn't actually check the median income, but I'd imagine it's up there.
I think the median income in San Francisco, the city and county that is something like 120,000.
Damn, that's high. That's like Draper, Utah high.
That's crazy because, it could be like the richest and most powerful region on earth, but they refuse to upzone. So, I have no beef about this. But anyway, so that brings us to the main question of this video. Transit, urbanist, and YIMBY advocacy under a hostile regime. What does it look like? And this is like an actual question for both my podcast co-hosts and for the audience, because this is really uncharted waters. How do we do this under a, what's going to be at least 4 years of effective authoritarianism?
Well, so far I've found that we've been taking a step back from normal day-to-day, advocating for projects, analyzing ways to improve the world we live in, advocating for said projects, filling out grant applications. We've been taking a step back and just fighting like the legislature or whatever. Like, I've been following along with Sweet Street's SB 195 stuff, and they took a step back from advocating for, actual change and improvements to the built environment to just fight a particular bill. So
at this point, it's just about preservation. How much
Yeah.
of what we have accomplished can we keep in place until this administration ends?
And how many committee meetings can you just show up to and fill with comments? How many emails can you send? How many phone calls can you make?
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
And then I think that's a good answer. Alex, do you have any wisdom to add?
I think it'll just be more of a turning inwards, hyper-local kind of activism. Because local city councils, stuff like that.
Well, like
those
Sophie
are
said,
gonna
if the
be-
Republicans won't listen, let's talk to everybody else.
Well, if they're like that low down, like city council, I think they're gonna have to, because they live in the community.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
for people in the state and the federal government, it's kind of like they're untouchable now.
Yeah.
So I really think it's just going to be local, a lot more community-based activism, and yeah, just trying to keep what we have where we can. Dark times.
Dark times. And I think also, if you're a transit agency at this point, you have to be looking at what you can do to sort of minimize your chance of becoming a target for the administration.
Yeah.
And
Rip the pride bus.
what I mean by that is no pride bus. I'm sorry to say.
Lay low.
Not that we have one anyway. But
we used
you
to.
that's not even what I meant.
Anyways,
I
continue.
meant like you have to be as perfect about your operations as possible. You have to be extracting the highest operating ratio possible. You have to not have any public safety incidents on board. You need to do absolutely everything you can to keep from being in the news.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm thinking about like agencies that have had public safety issues in the last several years. We're thinking like SEPTA or Denver RTD or I guess BART, TriMet, whoever, right? CTA. If you've had public safety issues, publicly notable public safety issues that have been in the national news, you need to immediately fix your public safety problem. Like, there's no excuse. You can't wait anymore. It needs to stop now. Otherwise, you're going to have big trouble.
I suppose this makes sense when you have a
same
reality TV star and his TV host friends running the government, that they're listening to the 24-hour
Exactly.
news cycle instead of experts.
These people don't get their news from experts. They get their news from Fox News. So if your subway system shows up on Fox News, you're going to
fucked.
lose $1 billion of funding. Like,
Great.
that is the calculus at the moment. So it has to run as smoothly as possible. You have to stop fare evasion. You have to keep there from being public safety issues by any means necessary, just so that you don't get crushed by the current administration.
Well, this is also a big stall on any expansion project, because not only are the grants for those expansion projects actively being revoked, but they're also very intentionally news items. Like, usually you want people talking about and thinking about and getting excited about expansion projects, but that's just going to put the agency more in the news.
Yeah. So transit agencies, if you take my advice on navigating this administration, be as good as possible, be as safe as possible, and try and keep yourself out of the news for anything that's bad. If you're in the news for something that's good, that's a really good thing, because, again, the people running the country are,
Getting
getting all of their information from Fox News. So...
Really, maybe what we need to do is a hostile takeover of Fox News.
Let the Onion buy Fox News like they bought InfoWars.
Real.
Well, I think that got canceled. Actually.
Yeah, did they ever successfully buy InfoWars? They sued over the bidding process.
I don't know what happened. I haven't heard. So I think it might be still in litigation.
Okay. If the concept of litigation doesn't stop existing.
Which is entirely possible. The other question is, how do we even do this podcast? Because this is just going to be a history podcast now, I hear, because there's nothing new that's going to happen. So
I
have a feeling it'll be pretty local.
Yeah. We'll cover what we can.
If we don't want it to all be bad news.
I'm excited to do one final summer of construction coverage for Salt Lake because I checked the enrolled text.
Because we're not allowed to build anything.
I checked the enrolled text of SB 195, and the stuff that they've already got like ready to build, 100% design, is okay for this summer. So we can cover that, and then we can be fucked.
Yup.
And then my back burner emergency backup, everything goes to shit plan was just to, instead of covering anything else, do anniversaries of people who were killed on public streets from the Sweet Streets traffic violence map. Hey, so if you want a nuclear option.
Maybe you should be in charge of the Twitter account. And the Blue Sky account. Follow us on Blue Sky.
Yeah. It's increasingly popular.
Yeah, so I don't know. My sort of special immediate term worries, right? Number one, DC Metro. How is that gonna go?
Right, because that is in the nation's capital's backyard.
Most improved transit system in the country in the last couple years, probably.
Well, and the DC Metro has always been like something that Congress picks on specifically over other things, like mostly to good avail. It's like how they pick on the Northeast Corridor more than they pick on other things because it's their backyard.
Well, Kyle, my real concern here is DC Metro has no dedicated funding source.
Oh, fuck. How do they get money?
They get money via allocations from the federal and state governments exclusively.
Oh, fuck.
And also, another great thing for DC Metro is that something like 100,000 federal workers have already been fired. Would you like to hazard a guess what percentage of white-collar jobs in the Washington, D.C. metro area are for the government? I don't know what it is.
Most of them.
I will bet you it's very high. And if people don't need to go to work...
who's going to ride the DC Metro?
Who's going to ride the DC Metro?
I don't want to know how much money it would cost if DC Metro were to be forced to shut down due to lack of funding to restart it in a few years. Like the sheer amount of maintenance and reconstruction and all that you'd have to do.
You really don't want to know, Kyle.
I don't want to know.
It would be an obscene amount of money.
Like rail infrastructure must exist continuously with continuous maintenance. Otherwise it's scrap.
And we're going to have to do it.
Great.
If not there, somewhere, because there's some transit agency that's going to die under this administration, and we're going to have to rebuild the whole thing in 4 years when we get a normal person back in office.
And that is going to cost far
because
we
will, because this idiot's already crashing the fucking economy in his first 2 months in office.
Oh my god. I'm going to save the economy. Fucks the economy.
The Atlanta Fed now projects a 4% GDP decrease for the first quarter of 2025.
Isn't the GDP only supposed to go up?
Yeah, unless you're having a recession. And that would be a worse contraction than the Great Recession of a couple decades ago, which all of us will remember with fondness.
Therefore it is not a recession, because it's not...
Well, because it's only a recession if it happens for 2 quarters in a row, and it's only happened for 1 quarter so far.
Okay, so another quarter, then it can be legit.
I remember when Republicans used to care about the economy.
I would take like a good old-fashioned fiscal conservative any day over this shit.
Well, pretend to at least.
Okay, look, I don't care for Mitt Romney's policies. I don't care for George W. Bush's policies. But, they didn't break the Constitution, and it took George W. Bush 8 years to crash the economy instead of 2 months. So
I have to say, they are looking like saints right now.
How do you be the guy who starts the Iraq War and look like a saint? I don't know, but they did it. They did it. Dick Cheney, American hero. I would also like to mention the sword of Damocles that is hanging over all of us, and that is climate change. Climate change is still a fucking thing.
Even if you put it in air quotes, it's still a thing? Fuck.
Even if you put greenhouse gases in air quotes, climate change is happening. We've already passed 1.5 degrees of warming, and we are well on track for 3, which is the point at which things get really, really fun. So...
Question. Weren't we in, like, good shape to maybe possibly fix this and make it out alive? Aren't renewables, like, continually getting cheaper and better?
Yes.
Can't we just keep building
We were
those?
actually, under the Biden administration, going to meet our new target of 2 degrees of warming.
Damn.
But then the American voters, in their infinite stupidity, voted a fascist who doesn't believe in climate change into office. And so now we are unleashing the power of American coal.
Wow.
Coal,
what a
the
power.
historically cleanest energy source.
Yeah, he did tweet out something about clean coal yesterday, I think.
What?
A thing that exists.
No, it definitely doesn't. As Climate Town would have us know, coal is just actually obsolete as an energy source, regardless of politics.
I will remind everyone that radiation from coal, because coal has a lot of uranium dust in it, kills more people every year than Chernobyl did.
Great.
Period.
And that's just the radiation. It does all sorts of other shit. Like, I'd take a chance of dying from a nuclear reactor over a guarantee of dying from coal.
In the modern era, there is no chance of anyone dying from a nuclear reactor. I'm sorry to say. Fukushima got hit by a freaking tsunami and nobody died.
True.
Three Mile Island?
Was actually
that wasn't even a disaster. And I think out of the whole population, there was a chance of half of one person getting cancer from that disaster.
Oh my god, not half of one person getting cancer.
Yeah. So, but no, I hate anti-nuclear people, because it's not like they're always like, oh my god, like what happened? Like, it's gonna happen again. We're gonna have another Fukushima, or we're gonna have a.
Fukushima was not that bad. No one died. Literally no one died. People are moving back into the previous contaminated zone now.
And not to mention, since we've developed entirely new fundamental types of nuclear reactors that just categorically eliminate the things that were the root causes of previous accidents.
Well, I would be worried about a second Chernobyl if we built another Soviet reactor in Utah.
If we let a bunch of broke-ass Soviets build a water-cooled, high-pressure reactor, it might blow up again. But we're not.
Well,
we've obvious design flaws.
That were papered over because it was the freaking Soviet Union.
What we're going to do is let the fucking United States Army Corps of Engineers hire some of the most talented engineers on the entire planet to build a nuclear reactor that fundamentally cannot blow up.
Kyle. They fired the U.S. Corps of Engineers.
What? Our canal system is going to implode next week.
It's very sad. They didn't actually fire the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers yet.
Not yet. Next week.
I'm sure they'll figure out a way to do it, and then realize that they need to rehire them like they did with all the nuclear safety people.
We're going to get some crap for releasing these episodes on time delay just because shit keeps happening so fast.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be funny if they fired the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and we look like the freaking Simpsons.
It would be so funny for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which is definitely not incredibly important to the everything.
Well, and the EPA and the Department of Education and research funding aren't either. So,
you ready for your tuition to quadruple because we don't get any more research funding?
Dude, I am fucking out. And if I go to grad school, it's going to be somewhere that will probably give me my tuition for free and or a private school. So thank God I'm out of the public education system in any form at the moment, because it's going to be a shit show for a little while.
Whoa.
So I guess the question we all have to ask ourselves here is, when this is over, and it will end, even if it's not in 4 years, it will end someday, because authoritarian regimes do not last forever. They are inherently fragile.
It'd be nice if it ended, cleanly instead of with like a war or something. But
we will see. I am hopeful that we will have an election in 4 years and that there will be a legitimate opportunity for someone else to be elected. But
I'm holding out for the one in 2 years. So
Hungary, Belarus, and Russia have proven that is not necessarily a certainty. So,
or that if there is an election, that it will be, an election.
Free and fair? Yeah.
Can we get UN election inspectors to come to America? Hot take.
Yeah, we need the Organization of American States to inspect our elections next time, which is really freaking embarrassing because usually that's what you have to do to Brazil and Mexico.
Yeah.
Or like Venezuela.
We'd send them to Russia, but they'd probably get shot, so.
Well, everyone knows that the Russian elections are rigged.
Oh, okay, it's only the ones
like
that are supposed to be legit that we make sure are legit.
That are supposed to be legit, but are sometimes rigged that you need to send the election.
Okay, but the ones that are always rigged, we just leave as is.
Exactly, because at that point it's not actually a democracy, so it's just sort of a show. So, but the question we have to ask ourselves is, in 4 years or in 20 years, in the ruins of the former American Republic...
And the ruins of this planet.
And the ruins of this planet, what is the society, what is the America that we want to... What do we want a new America to look like? What do we want? What's our agenda going to be so that this does not happen again? I would like to sort of personally call for... Let's call it Project 2029, which is like, what did they call Project 2025? Is it like a conservative mandate for leadership?
Yeah,
I think so.
Let's call it the left liberal mandate for leadership. And what is our policy going to look like?
How about the mandate for fucking functional government?
Yeah, how are we going to rebuild the federal bureaucracy when it's had like half or more of its workers fired?
Give judges tasers.
How are we going to rebuild our diplomatic relationships with other countries, and especially those that we have fucked over in the last 4 years? How are we going to build for the future in a world that is increasingly in danger of climate change? How are we going to, ensure that the millions who will be made homeless by this administration's policies can find somewhere to live? How are we going to, we have to get our shit together now so that when we kick these Nazi fucks' ass in 4 years, which we will, if there's still an election, how are we going to do that? And what is our governing strategy going to look like once we do? We can't have this sort of disjointed halfway BS we've been doing for the last 2 election cycles where we get so focused on, some BS or another instead of actually presenting a vision to the American people.
Well, and it's not just that, but playing the same game that Trump and his cronies are playing.
No,
planning out the policy in advance of getting elected and then executing on the policy is a very effective and fast way.
Stop pretending you're friends with Republicans. Republicans hate you. They wish you were dead. They think you're a baby-killing Satanist. So maybe instead of pretending like they're actually your best friends, even though they call you like a baby-killing Satan worshiper, maybe you should fight fire with fire and call them what they are, which is misogynistic, racist, crypto-fascist pieces of shit who want to turn America into an authoritarian hellhole like Russia. That's what these people want. They want us to be Russia. They don't look at Russia as a fearful example of what can happen to countries that become impoverished and isolated and authoritarian and conservative and are the worst places in the developed world to live. They look at that as an example because women don't have rights and gay people don't have rights and minorities don't have rights. And they think that is worth being a poor, stupid, irrelevant country. So call them what they are. Call them what they are. They're stupid. They're racist, they're ignorant, they have no idea what they're doing, and apparently they don't even know how the government works because they keep fucking up dismantling it. So
that was one of my favorite things about Biden as president, is that he was a seasoned policymaker. He knows how the sausage is made. He knows what strings to pull, so he can just actually do things really effectively.
I didn't love him. I didn't love Joe Biden, but he was a fine president. I'm sorry to say for all of my people who call him Genocide Joe, but he's a lot better than a lot of others and worse than only a few.
And as literally everyone has said, is better than Trump on genocide.
It's so far. Yeah, because, speaking of Gaza, remind me which administration, suggested continuing the two-state solution that has been U.S. policy for 20 years. And which administration called for the mass deportation of all Gazans to build a resort? Yeah. So
simple stuff.
I don't know. We need Project 2029. We need a Democratic Party that's going to fight, and we need to work as hard as we can to preserve what we have over the next 4 years, because it's going to be hard.
It's bad when Reagan is rolling in his grave.
Reagan might actually be rolling in his grave. No, I have a strong dislike for Ronald Reagan. I think he was a bad person with bad policies. But the simple fact is he played by the rules, which is important, and
very
also
important.
Understood the duty of an American citizen to their country, which I don't think the modern Republican Party understands, because they only understand duty to self.
And Trump understands duty to Putin.
Look, if he were, I don't know if he is a Russian agent, but sometimes I think he might be, because he is acting exactly like a Russian agent would if they got control of the country.
It's dark times when we're saying decent stuff about Reagan on the podcast.
Piece of shit. But he was a piece of shit. But he was a Democrat, and a Democrat in the little d sense of the word, and you can do worse.
Oh, I'm feeling like we'll need an FDR reset.
Yeah,
we're gonna need more than an FDR.
At least an FDR.
We're going to need like an FDR and a Grant and a Lyndon B. Johnson.
Back to back.
And like a Jefferson all in one.
I do like the idea of having a new CCC.
Well, we almost had the Civilian Climate Corps.
I know, which would have been cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Which I would have loved to have been a part of.
Oh, I would have considered signing up for that all day. I think that would have been great. Like, yeah, send me up some creek to build a dam to generate hydropower, or like, I don't know,
build an offshore wind farm, or build a train
I'll
across
do that,
the country.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. When is America's 250th? I think it's next year, which sucks.
Depressing.
So anyway, any closing thoughts, guys? Because we're going to end up talking about this crap every week, but this is going to be our only episode dedicated to the topic.
Well, I do like your...
Get it out now.
Well, obviously, next episode will be the Utah version of this rant episode. But I do like your Project 2029 concept idea. The name might be a bit too soon and a bit too ouchy, but we can workshop that. But I mean, we could talk more about like policy theory and that sort of thing, and why the government breaks how it does, and how we might go about fixing it.
You're getting into my wheelhouse, Kyle. I spent 4 years studying that sort of thing.
Perfect. And we can spend 4 talking about it.
Oh, God.
But like, if we can't cover construction projects because nothing is happening and everything is canceled, we can at least talk about why it's canceled.
And, so vive la résistance. Let's go, Brandon.
Yeah, bring that one back.
But this time it means the opposite of what it meant before.
Cool.
Any closing thoughts from anyone? Alex, Kyle?
I know you said you were going to kill optimism, but I still think it would be nice to bring something good in once a week. Even if it's not related to anything out in the world.
Any W.
Just something good going on in your life.
Yeah.
Alex has invented a new segment for the podcast. This will, from every week henceforth, be placed before the news.
That is a decent idea.
Maybe you should let's put it after the news so it can kind of take the sting off.
Oh, okay. Positivity Zone right after the news. Here on the Red Line Podcast, your home for public transportation in the American West. Thank you for listening. If you like what we do here, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening... if you're on YouTube.
And hey, we're almost to 1,000 subs. We're at 990. So
We are so close. I will personally buy you...
Help us surpass Episcopal.
If you can prove that you are the 1,000th subscriber...
we can check, I think.
Our 1,000th subscriber. We can what?
I think we can check. I'm not sure how.
Okay, well, if you're our 1,000th subscriber, we're going to send you a bunch of merch. So...
Sounds good.
That's a promise. Yeah, that's a great idea, I think.
Cool.
Also,
speaking of
patrons.
Patrons.
Yeah, thank you for tolerating our little 2.5 month break.
So we can go to session.
We are back better than ever.
Yeah.
We're back better than ever, boys and girls. So, yeah. Speaking of patron, if you become a patron, if you like what we do here, or you hate Republicans,
valid reasons,
you should become a patron. Patrons get to enjoy exclusive content like the Church Architecture podcast and early access to all of our regular content and occasional merch drops. Speaking of patrons, at Frontrunner tier $10 or more per month, we have Zach Adams, Aaron, Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, Phobos 2390, and Tony Stunts.
At $5 a month, the Red Line tier, we have Christopher Whaley, DJ Highwill Watkins, Elijah Kensler, Isaac Madsen, Jesse Mayo, Nebula, Reluctant LA Resident, Robert P. Walsh, Zephyr Zamoro, and that's it for Red Line.
At a hopefully mechanical issue free Blue Line tier, $3 a month, we have Alex Tykowski, Alice MYOB, Ben, Ethan McDonald, Evelyn, G4, Jack McCoskey, Litmus Zest, Martine Hecker-Martinez, Matt Gray, McKay Ransom, Oliver, Sam Myers, Sky Lukowski, Toronto Channel, and Zach Verstott.
And at Greenline tier, hopefully free of a derailment at Central Point, since that happens all the time.
Hey, it's been 9 years. Give them a fucking break. They put a speed feedback sign there so you can never do an overspeed again. Okay?
We have Benjamin Wood, Joshua S. Horvath, Kapil, Ryan Bailey, who I think is new, and William Rowe.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah,
You're all great. Thank you for tolerating our laps. It's appreciated. And Kyle, can we all of these memes that you sent, can we just sort of scroll through these throughout the episode on the YouTube?
Solid, probably, yeah.
I think that'd be quite funny.
We can.
And
Sounds
you should
good.
and I think you should make this the thumbnail.
Oh my god. Okay.
Not really, but
No, that's a shit.
It'll be in there.